Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Himprovement. And so today we have another special guest on. His name is Eric Brundidge, aka The Life and Times of Eric.
How you doing? How you doing? I appreciate you having me on the show, man. I appreciate you having me on the show. So just thank you. Thank you so much.
It's nice to meet you and glad that we could get this working. And so what
Yeah.
would you like to tell the audience about yourself? What would you like for them to know?
I would like the audience to know my name is Eric. Like you said, go by the Life and Times of Eric. I have a podcast that airs every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We go over different segments each day. On Monday is Motivation Mondays. We go over different topics that will motivate you to go after your career job, or your entrepreneurship journey. And on Wednesdays, we go over different books. It's called What to Do Wednesdays. We go over different books, different people you should know about. Like example, Malcolm Gladwell, The Outliers, or just different books that will help you be a better person in your life and on your journey to success. And on Fridays is question and answer Fridays, where people DM me, email me, just different questions, and I give them the best answer to my ability and lead them in the right direction so they can be successful. So definitely check out the podcast. It's on Amazon, Spotify, and everywhere else. And I guarantee you, every podcast episode, I give you actionable tips that you can use today to go after your dreams or your career job and what you want to do.
That's great, man. And so just looking at everything that you do and how it all blends together, what would you say is your current mission?
I would say my current mission right now would be to help others take the skills that they have from their job and then their everyday life skills to go after their entrepreneurship dreams or to go after the career job that they want to have in their life. Because a lot of times we we cancel ourselves out before we even go after something or even believe we can do something because we feel like I don't have this, I don't have that. When in actuality, you have the skills from the job that you work every day or from the things you do every day, but you're just not using them in the right direction. And that's my mission, to give people the ability and to show them like, look, you have it in you. Let's just bring it out so you can see it so that you can go after your dreams and what you want to do.
Okay, that's great. And I'm sure that a lot of people get value from that.
Mm-hmm.
And so you talked about people utilizing the skills that they have currently and being able to hop into whatever it is they want to do.
Yep.
And so what would you say was the catalyst for you? What was the thing that sparked you to go on the journey that you're on today along that path?
I would think what sparked me was a simple fact that after working for like 3 different like Fortune 500 companies, then working for some startup companies like 4 or 5, I kind of realized like, how did I get here? What made me get to this position? And then when I first started our podcast, like around 14, 15, I had recorded a little bit, but it was all over the place. And then took a year off, thought about more, did another season, took a year off, came back. I started realizing like a lot of the things that I was doing to get here, a lot of people didn't know that you could do that. Or I was having conversations with people and they were like, man, how'd you get into the startup world? Or how'd you get this? And I was telling them, they were like, bro, I ain't never think about doing that. I was like, yeah. But when you say something, you thinking that, hey, this is just the norm. Everybody's just doing it. But then when you start telling people, they're like, nah, man, I didn't know you. I thought you literally just knew somebody. I was like, no, I didn't know anybody. Like I literally started from ground floor, not knowing anybody, but just kind of put myself into space and kind of looked and found the positions where I need to be. And when I explained to them how it went about with that and how I got into the corporate world, also a corporate job, and then worked for a professional, basketball team as well, then it's kind of like, oh, dang, I didn't know you could do that. I didn't think about moving those types of steps. And you did all this for free? Nope. Didn't cost me. Nope. Didn't. So that's been kind of like my catalyst and since where it made me be like, I've been doing all this podcast and they've been all over the place. And this is what made me realize I need to pivot my podcast because I'm already talking about motivation and helping you, but let's double down on your niche in the sense where let's talk about using what you have now to have what you want in your life. And I've always been a big believer of going after your dreams, whether it be your entrepreneurship journeys or having the job that you want. And the reason I say both of them is because everybody doesn't want to be an entrepreneur. Some people are happy at their job, and there's nothing wrong with that. You should do what makes you feel happy. Don't let social media fool you into thinking you have to do something that's not you. So that's why I say both, because the skills and the actionable tips that I give will allow you to go after what you want to, and you want and that you see in your life.
And it's actually interesting that you say that. It kind of reminds me of something similar that I talked about with somebody yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And so pretty much we were talking about the corporate tongue twister,
Yeah.
the corporate grind and everything, and how a lot of people just kind of go into it with the mindset of whatever it is that you end up doing that you get that full-time job offer for. That's just what you do
Yeah.
for the next, 20, 30 years, whatever it is. Your purpose in life is pretty much to do that job, buy a house, have a
Yep.
family, and that's it. And so due to the fact that so many people see that as the status quo, everybody thinks they need to kind of fit into that mold, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
Nobody ever does ask why, and nobody does ever take a look at it. Let's say maybe if they don't like how
Mhm.
that corporate grind is going for them and start looking for other opportunities or ways that they can make the same income doing something that might be more in alignment with who they are. And so I just thought it was interesting that you said that.
Yeah, definitely. Because like you said before, you made a very valid point. A lot of people don't have a reality check or self-awareness as to what they want to do. They may talk about what they want to do, or they will telling their friends this is what they want to do, and then they get discouraged. So then they go back to the job and be like, I need to stop thinking outside the box before people think I'm crazy. Or someone's telling me like, you got a family, you need to stop thinking like that. You need to get something that's secure, that's going to pay the bills and take care of everybody.
Yeah, and one thing about it that's pretty unfortunate is that people put so much weight on what the other people around who aren't living their life tell them.
Yep.
And as a result, it causes them to live out someone else's dreams or someone else's expectations. And I
Yeah.
actually made an episode about this in the past, talk
Mhm.
about and it's called Live Like You're Dying.
Yeah,
And
I
pretty much,
remember.
yeah.
Yeah, I
And
remember that one. Yeah, I checked it out. Yeah.
yeah. And like from what you probably saw, it talks about that how one of the most common things that people say on their deathbed is that they wish they lived a life more authentic to themselves instead of
Mhm.
doing what everybody else wanted them to do. And so going back to what I was talking about before, we're asking yourself, why does this have to be the norm? Why does this have to be the status quo? Why do I need to fit into this when there are so many different options out there? Just, I guess, having the awareness to be able to ask why and to look for other alternatives and to do the research to see how to do them. It can make so much of a difference. Those people that you were talking about that didn't even know about the stuff you do with the startup and everything and how to get into it, if they had asked themselves that question of why long before and had just done a really, it's even easier now than it's ever been before. All you have to do is just a quick Google search.
Quick
That's
Google.
quick Google search, and you can find out pretty much anything you need to know about any career, any type of
Yep.
path, how to get into whatever it is. Even with me doing this podcast, I had no
Mhm.
idea how to do a podcast before I got into this. I didn't know about getting hosting and that sort of thing so they could publish it. I didn't know about mics, audio production, any of that, but searching Google made
Yeah.
it to where it became a whole lot more simple. And so, it really just seems so cut and dry and easy. But with people not asking that initial question of why do I have to do this if it's not something I want to do and looking to find different alternatives, they never do get to that point.
Yeah, you're right about that. You're so right about that. And I think a lot of times people never get to that point because simple fact, like you said, is like they don't think they can. They cancel themselves out, or it's like I see others doing it, but I can't do it. And I notice a lot of times you probably ran into a lot of people who say that like so and so is doing it, you could do it. Nah, that's not me. I didn't go to XYZ. I didn't go to school, or I didn't get that experience, or I don't have those certifications, or something like that. It's always something kind of negative self-talk as to why a lot of times people don't feel like they can do something or they want to do something. And then in return, like you said, if you just get on Google and you start inching away, it all come together. It's like building anything. You got to do it brick by brick, block by block. It's gonna take time, but if you start going and going and going like a car, you'll get to your destination. But the thing of the matter is, you just got to get in the car first. And a lot of
Right.
people ain't getting in the car first.
Right. And honestly, I think the main culprit behind that type of mindset is that it's really just easier to come up with excuses to not do it.
Yep.
And I think part of the reason why is just because, innately as humans, we have a fear of failure where our
Yep.
brains are kind of wired to where we see failure as like some danger, as if that can end your life. But the thing is, it's not the end of the world if you fail. And something that I feel like a lot of people don't consider is that failure is just as real as the ideal outcome. Neither of them happen. It's both in the
Yeah.
future. And so you never know which one you could get. And so you might as well go ahead and go forward, because as long as you stay in the same spot that you're in now, that failure, I guess the result that come from a meaning having nothing, you're already living in that situation now.
Yeah. No, you're definitely right because I always seem like talking to people on the podcast or people email me, it's always somebody's looking at me. I'm kind of worried if this happens, how will I bounce back? And I think sometimes you spend so much time thinking about you failing, you don't think about you being successful, and not realizing that a lot of people that are billionaires have failed a lot. I mean, I use the example, Howard Schultz got turned down 245 times before he even got to Starbucks. So that 246 times changed his whole life and his family's life and his kids, and now he's a billionaire. Or if you want to think about The Rock was failing, broke, and then he decided to turn his life around and go wrestle. But it took time for him to get to where he was. It didn't happen overnight for him to be, the most electrifying man he calls himself. But that was the time, just like with Kevin Hart, and anybody else that you could think about, the Michael Jordans, the Kobe's, you know what I'm saying? Kobe didn't amass the greatness just out of nowhere. It took time. It took years of practice and persistence, just being better and better. But people don't realize that you're going to fail along the way. Failure is just part of success. If you don't fail, then you'll never understand the importance of why it's important to be successful, because I think failure makes you stronger, failure makes you wiser, and failure is something that you can't learn in a book. You can't be told what it's like, you know what I'm saying? Because people could tell you all the time, like, oh, I had a business and it failed and this and that. Yeah, but no one can tell you what it's like to have your business, put your time into it, and then all of a sudden have like it failed because you didn't balance the books right, or have it failed because you didn't watch your partner and they took off with all the money, or have it fail because you got sued because you didn't do your homework on the copyright, I mean the trademark of the business. These type of things are, even though they're bad and they can sometimes put people down for the count, it will make you tougher in the long run for your next journey. Because I mean, we've all read it. What does it say? Like the average millionaire had like 2 or 3 businesses before the third business became successful. I mean, the GoPro guy, he failed his first business so bad that he cost people $250,000. And then years later, he started GoPro, and well, enough said. But the first business flopped, lost a lot of people's money, but he didn't give up. And then they started GoPro, and now he's sitting on millions, billions, really. So it just goes to show you that it's a consistent pattern of failure coming with being successful and having a life that you want to have.
Right. And there are two things that you brought up, and I'm glad that you did. The first thing you brought up was family and expectation for some people to have to take care of their family and
Mhm.
provide for them. That leads to them not wanting to go into those things that might be a little bit more risky. And
Yeah.
then the other thing that you mentioned is, I guess it can be summed up to an unrealistic expectation of what success is.
Yeah.
And so, I guess to touch on the one about success, since that was the most recent one, I feel like there are a lot of people out here, especially people that come from disadvantaged backgrounds,
Mhm.
where due to the fact that they didn't see
Mhm.
high levels of success around them consistently, or even moderate levels of success,
Mhm.
it makes it to where they have an unrealistic expectation of what it takes to be successful. Since they've never seen it, they can never picture themselves
Yeah.
being in it, because it's kind of presented to them, or at least they see it in a way to where it's just, I guess, natural for some people, as if it's luck or if it's just a straight path. And I feel like that's one of the things that stops a lot of people from even trying, in some
Mhm.
cases
Yeah.
in the first place. Just seeing how they may have failed, 1 or 2 times at something that they really wanted to do,
Mhm.
and not seeing anyone else around them having those same type of failures, but still achieving the success that they wanted. It makes it to where these people become discouraged. And as a result, they decide not to try at all. And so I'm
Yes.
glad that you brought that up. And I guess by really people coming from those environments, like I guess myself included, doing better things and going out and trying different things, um, being successful and failing, and kind of setting that example, it can make it to where other people that are similar can look at whatever it is that I'm doing and get inspiration from that, and see somebody that's like them, I guess you could say, and say, hey, if he can do it, that's something I could potentially do too. And then even to touch on the part that you said about family, where a lot of people that might come from a disadvantaged background may feel that they can't lose with it, whatever it is that they have right now, because they have so many people depending on them. And that's something that really I hadn't put a lot of thought to until you just said that. How it makes it to where they can't just live for themselves. It would be somewhat selfish if they have people depending on them, and they decide that they're going to take some huge risk. And then let's say if they do fail at it, they might not have been able to afford to be able to start over, be able to
Yeah.
put money into a business, or something like that. And so that's definitely something to think about. And I feel like those people that are coming from those environments where you have people depending on them like that just need to be a little bit more cautious.
Oh no, no. I feel like when you're playing with the house money, that's what I call it, because you're playing with house money in the sense where you're betting that you're gonna bet on yourself to be successful against the house. And I call the house life. So you're betting that you're at the table and that you're gonna get 21, you're gonna get red, you're betting on red, you're betting on black. But if you don't, you could literally set yourself back and a lot of people back. So you definitely got to be cautious in a sense where, like, if you're going into that type of field and you're gambling, you have people betting on you, you got to at least have like 3 to 6 months expenses saved, putting yourself in a good position where if you are going to gamble, you're gambling light, not jumping out. Okay, prime example, when I on my podcast, I like to use a lot of examples. So let's say use an example. If you want to start your own, catering business, I wouldn't advise you take your 20,000 and jump out there and get a truck. That wouldn't be my first thing. My first thing would be, hey, you start a catering business, do a little something at your house, advertise it because it's small, it's cheap, it doesn't cost a lot, and then you can go out and deliver to people. And that's not costing you a lot. It's not dangerous. But the people who grab the 20,000 and be like, I'm gonna go jump out and get a storefront automatically without knowing if the buzz works, what their menu is, that's gambling, because we all know, restaurant margins are thin. So and then overhead's already high. So you could easily lose that money in a snap of 6 months real quick. So I would say things like that could be avoided. Or, you have that money and you go buy a food truck, or, a food truck will be great, but until you're able to get to that level, start off small. And I think a lot of times, and you touched on this too, is a lot of times people don't, I think you touched on another podcast, people don't want to go through the journey of starting small. They feel like if I got it, I should go big. And sometimes it's not all about going big. It's all about starting off small, build yourself up, figure out what you need, figure out what works and what doesn't work before you immerse yourself and spend more money and go big. Because we've seen so many times people jump out there, get the big podcast studio, get the big this, get that, and then after 10 or 12 episodes, they realize this ain't for them. Oh man, I'm tired. It takes a lot of work. I thought I'd been blown up by now. It doesn't work like that. So since it doesn't work like that, it's best just to start off small and just slowly inch your way along before you realize you need the bigger and better things. You know what I'm saying? Like, I guarantee you, like when you first started, I guarantee you didn't go out and buy a $400 mic, did you?
No.
Right. You know what I'm saying?
No,
Like, you'll
not
be
at
like,
all.
all right, this mic right here is $89. Okay, I could do that. That will work for what I need to do. Then as you go, you're like, all right, this season 3, I'll get the Blue Yeti. That's 120. I've been doing this. I'm committed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you just never know what can happen between this time. But a lot of people will jump out there and spend that money, and I've seen it. And I just be like, all right, let's see how long you're committed to keep doing this, because it's a process. And when they don't get to superstardom or gone viral like they want, then hey man, this ain't for me. It's not for you because you were expecting it to happen like this, or it's not for you because you're realizing that it's a consistent grind and it takes time and it just don't happen overnight. Overnight is a 10-year work in progress. So
Right. And one thing that you mentioned that I'm glad that you talked about was starting small.
mhm.
And so I guess it's good for us to get into the habit of, we can talk about it and say how, certain people might be at a disadvantage of different things. But at the end of the day, the mission of the podcast is to help people activate their potential and achieve their
Yep.
goals in life.
Right.
And so we have to give solutions. And that solution that you gave was to just scale it smaller. I guess that's not a privilege that you get, whenever you're starting off in a compromised financial position, to be able to attack it the same way other people who might have more funds could. But that doesn't mean that you can't do it. And so I'm glad that you said that, to just start small, scale it on a smaller level, and then just build up from there with that smaller progress that you're making. And then
Yeah.
something else that I wanted to add to that too is that I feel like something else that people fall a victim to, or I guess let be something that's a major motivator for them in these type of ventures, is I feel like the reason why a lot of people think that they need to go big is not necessarily to go big, but to go visible, make it
Yeah.
something that people can see and that they can brag about. And I feel like that's a trap,
Yeah. Yeah.
because a lot of people get it to where they have a lot of unnecessary pressure on them. And then, the bigger you start, or the more visibility you have at the beginning, if you don't know what you're doing, it shows more. And that
Yeah.
can be extremely discouraging whenever you're telling everybody in your neighborhood or everybody that you know, or you make a big Facebook post saying, I just started my own business. Or like you said, with catering or something, let's say somebody bought a food truck and they post pictures on Facebook and everything. That's a lot of pressure on somebody that, hasn't even gotten their feet wet, doesn't even know what they're doing.
Yep.
So I think that's something else that a lot of people do, to where it's not necessarily to go big, but it's to be visible, to get that sense of importance from people seeing that they're doing something, well, something different.
Oh yeah. You hit the nail right on the coffin, because some people were like, it was just so much pressure on me. You put the pressure on yourself. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And
weren't
don't
you
and
the
don't get
one
me
that was
wrong.
right? You're the one that had a 10, man, my food truck coming down the block. Y'all better buy, y'all better buy, y'all better buy. But you ain't
Hmm.
even got the ingredients yet for the food truck. You ain't even figured out
Right.
how you gonna make the menu, but you're telling everybody about you need to do this and do that. You ain't even prepared. So now you done, it's almost like you set yourself up to be bigger than what you are, so that when it doesn't work out, people are looking at you crazy because you went around yelling at the top of your lungs about, you all need to do this and do that for me, but then you weren't even prepared, and ready to do it. Sometimes
Hmm.
it's best just to go in silence and do your food truck, do your business, do your podcast, do your shirt business, and then when the others find out about it, by that time you done figured out who you are, you figured out your price margin, you figured out your menu, you figured out where you want to sell, you figured out your advertising, and then you're good to go. When they ask questions, there won't be no problems. When they ask for something, there won't be no problems. You won't be looking lost or confused. You'll just have everything lined up. But like you said before, when you put that type of pressure on yourself, a lot of people who do that, they're looking for that type of how do I say,
That
attention.
validation, that attention.
Yeah,
Yeah.
validation and attention, to be known for something, instead of just being like, you check me out, but the ship's still rolling, but the boat's still gonna go.
Hmm.
But everybody's not like that, and I guess that's what us as people, we have to realize. But I think all in all, at the end of the day, I always tell people, you have to do you, and if that's what you like to do, you want validation, attention, cool, but be prepared that if it flops, because I have friends, they do a lot of that, and when it flops, boy, people be in your comments ready. So I
Ready.
thought you said that you're gonna be open on the 21st. It's the 30th. What's going on? Like, people be in your comments ready to roast you in a passive aggressive
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. And like they weren't even there. They were nowhere to be found when the good stuff was happening. But then
Yeah.
when you don't hit that one goal, or like when that one bad thing happens there at the end, let's say when it
Oh
fails, then
man.
that's when you hear from them. Yeah.
Waiting, passive aggressive,
Waiting.
like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. This is the 30th. Okay, well, we're going into the first now. Are you still doing this? I just want to know, because
Yeah. Yeah, I get what you're saying. And don't get me wrong. Like when I was talking about the pressure,
yeah,
it can be bad if you put too much of yourself, but some pressure is a good thing.
yeah,
Because I'll
you're right.
say, I was kind of cautious about the pressure I put on myself when I first started this.
Mhm.
I could have done the same thing where I went out and said, everybody I know, they're going to know that I'm starting a podcast. But what I did was, I told maybe one, two people that I had the idea for it. And I
Mhm.
made the first episode, passed it to a few people, in my circle around me. And
Right.
then from there, once I got to like third, fourth episode, that's when I was thinking, hey, okay, I'm being consistent about this. Now I can start going to people outside of my circle.
Right.
And so pressure was good, coming from the people around me. I guess
Mhm.
people that I knew were going to be supportive and provide positive pressure. And then once I knew that it was something that I could do and I could be consistent with, that's when I could start to handle the outside pressure, to where if, John from Wisconsin or somewhere else, left a comment on a YouTube video or
Yeah.
left a bad Apple Podcast review or something like that, saying anything negative about the show, it wouldn't bother me as much, if that makes sense.
No, it definitely makes sense. You're pretty much hardening your inside before the outside comes in looking for you, or want to pick or anything like that. Which, I mean, that makes
Mm-hmm.
a lot of sense. I mean, you gotta like, but I think the most important thing that you said about that is, you're like, hey, after my fourth episode, I was like, I can do this consistently. You know what I'm saying? You realize where you was, and that was another thing where I talked about the microphones. People jumping out there getting expensive microphones. You got a small microphone first, start off. So I did the same way, and then once you start doing it regular, like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And then you're like, all right, I'm putting together my schedule. I'm able to record. I'm able to have people on there. I'm able to do this. And this is all about finding your niche, finding your groove, and then laying it out, and then staying with it, even when you don't feel like it.
Exactly. And to kind of harp off that, the next question I have is, this is
Mhm.
actually a topic that I think the majority of people struggle with.
Mhm.
And so you might be able to help a lot of the listeners with this. And so, we both work full-time jobs, yet
Yeah.
we take time after work to pursue other ventures.
Mhm.
And so I would like for you to, I guess, give the listeners some advice on how do you motivate yourself to work on your personal projects like the podcast and other things after a
Mhm.
long day of work. And the way that I feel like that could translate is for those listeners that want to do something but might not have the motivation to finally make that jump to go do it or to do it consistently. What pieces of advice would you give them?
Well, I would the first piece of advice that I would give them, and I rub my eye because it's so funny, is because I've actually had a conversation with somebody. Like I had a conversation with somebody about this like 2 weeks ago, and the first one would be find out what you want to do. I repeat, find out what you want to do. And the reason I say that, and I'm looking directly at the camera, is because so many people, and I know, hey Eric, man, I want to sell shirts. Okay, what kind of shirts? Nah, man, my friend told me that if I sell shirts, I can make a lot of money. See, this is what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Someone told you that you could make a lot of money, but this ain't really what you want to do. And the problem with that is if it's not something that you want to do, when it gets tough, when it gets hard, you're gonna quit. So that's the first thing. When you something that you want to do, you're gonna enjoy doing it even after a long day. So that's the first thing. Find out what you want to do. And after you find out what you want to do, that's going to allow you to go into step two, or,
Mm-hmm.
and step two would be plotting out your day. And plotting out your day means putting a plan together. Don't just wander aimlessly, because if you wander aimlessly, you'll get lost in the woods. But if you have a plan, then you can zigzag through the woods and start in the beginning and exit out. But if you don't have a plan and every day you just like, I'm gonna work on the business, I'm gonna work on my podcast, I'm gonna work on my whatever, you won't know what success is, you won't know what you're trying to accomplish because you have no plan. And a lot of people don't plan. They just say, all right, I gotta work today, I'm gonna create a logo, I need to create a logo. And then tomorrow I'm gonna create some content, I'm gonna create some content. And then but hold on, you got a podcast. Why are you trying to create logo, create content, or create little images when you need to be trying to record the podcast? You need to be trying to figure out what the podcast's outline is going to be, what the podcast is going to discuss, where you're going to host it. After you do that, how you're going to market it, and then fifth and finally, what's going to be your consistent to how you're going to be releasing it.
Mm-hmm.
Prime example: if you have a shirt, you have shirts. Okay, you want to sell shirts. What's your designs going to be? That needs to be number one. Number two, after you find the designs, where are you going to sell them? Are you going to do print on demand? Are you going to print your own shirts and sell them from your website? If you do that, are you going to use Shopify? You're going to do WordPress? Okay. What's going to be your price margins? How much are you going to charge for shipping? Is it going to be free shipping? If you don't get free shipping, are you going to add into the price? All these things go into number two, having a plan. Because if you don't have a plan, then literally every day you're working on something randomly in the business and you're never getting to where you want to, where you could start the business. Or if you start the business, it's not being able to be successful each week because you're just jumping around every way doing, as I like to call it, non-money making activities. That's what I like to call it. I have a thing I say, people like to do a lot of non-money making activities. And I was the same way. I was doing a lot of non-money making activities, but once I got a plan together, I started doing money making activities. So that would be number two, having a plan. And then number three would be to get going forward would be please don't beat yourself up. Because a lot of times we come home from work and we be like, man, I'm tired, I can't do nothing. Like, you really be tired and you don't do anything. It's okay. You got it the next day. Just go harder the next day. We got to stop beating ourselves up. Because when we beat ourselves up, I was just like a lot of people. I beat myself up and I would stop and then go, stop and start, stop and start. And then once I got to the point of stop beating myself up and realizing like, hey, Monday I couldn't go because I was just so worn out. I just mentally, I wasn't there. It's okay. Tuesday I went even harder, and Wednesday I went harder, and Thursday and Friday. And I realized to stop beating myself up and to be like, hey, it's okay. Your body's tired. I needed to rest. And once I realized that, a lot of things started happening more and more. Money making activities started helping, I guess, generating more once I stopped beating myself up. So I would definitely say, one, figure out what you like to do. You, not what your homeboy told you, not what your cousin told you down the street, or not what your neighbor said, what you like to do. Two, have a plan on where you want to go so you don't get lost in the woods and just be randomly doing stuff every day that's not getting you closer to your business starting or having your business get a profit. And then three, would have to be, don't beat yourself up. Do not beat yourself up, because so many times we beat ourselves up. And when we start beating ourselves up, we end up telling ourselves, this ain't for me, I can't do it. And we talk ourselves out of it. So those would be the three steps I would like to give.
Right. And so honestly, from hearing you talk about it and the way that you broke it down, that's pretty much the same way that it worked for me. You talked
Mhm.
about how, first creating a strong why, a
Yep.
strong, reason for why you wanted to do what you do.
Mhm.
And the second thing, making a plan. And the third, not beating yourself up. That was pretty much the same process that I went through to get to this point. I had the strong why. I've been thinking about it for months, how I'm really into personal development content, and more specifically, the stuff for young men, how I knew that it could have helped me during tough times in my life. And so
Yep.
I knew that that was something I was passionate about. And so it made it all the more easier to be able to deal with adversity and challenges that came with learning how to do podcasting, because it was something that I actually cared about and wanted to talk about. And so the fact that you say that about having a strong reason behind what you're doing, I can definitely
Yep.
relate to that. And I feel like that's the thing that a lot of guys are missing. That's that one element that leads to many guys not getting the results that they want in life, or being able to achieve these lofty goals that you might have for themselves with their success, is because they don't have a strong why behind doing it besides just the money. They don't have an
Yeah.
avenue that they're passionate about, that they want to put that energy into, because they do have some guys that are just those high energy guys where you can drop them anywhere on the planet and they
And they'll
would
be good.
find some way to make it work. I just
Yeah.
know I'm not one of those guys. If I'm
Yeah.
not behind the mission, or whatever it is that I'm doing, if it's not something I enjoy and see value in, I just know it's tough for me personally to be able to
Mhm.
really put a bunch of effort into it. So that's really the first thing, just finding that why that resonates with you in a strong way, to where, 10, 11 o'clock at night, you can still be reviewing your stuff, and you can say, this isn't right, I'm going to keep working on this. Knowing that you have work in the morning is something that you don't even think about twice. It's like just muscle memory, I guess you could say. You don't even think about how tired you are or anything. You're just working until it gets finished, working until it meets the quality that you want it to, because you care that much. And then that plan that you talked about, that's the next thing, where people can have all the motivation in the world, but with no direction, you're not going anywhere.
Mhm.
And so it's great that you brought that up. And so that's second most important thing, making that plan, making sure that you outline everything and actually come up with strategies, come up with the different obstacles that you might face and the things that you need to consider whenever you're going to be doing what it is that you choose to do. And then the third thing too, not beating yourself up. I know that whenever I was doing it and I wasn't getting maybe the number of streams that I wanted to get, maybe if I wasn't performing as well as I wanted to in the interviews, or just in the individual episodes I was doing by myself, I was beating myself up. And the thing I had to consider, and one of my friends told me this, and I talk to regularly about my progress with these sorts of things.
Right.
What he said is that, or pretty much the way I interpreted it, the analogy I made for myself from what he said was kind of like this: all this stuff that I'm doing besides going to work and coming back home is all extra credit if you think about it. Because technically, I don't have to do any of it. I don't have to do the podcast. You technically don't have to do personal development. I don't have to go to Muay Thai, to go work out and work on my craft with that. I could really just go to work and go home every day, and I would match 80% of people in the world, with my effort and everything. And so the thing I had to consider is that everything that I'm doing outside of that is extra credit, or I guess, working overtime, I guess you can say. And how can you get mad at yourself for not working enough overtime, if that makes sense? You're already going above and beyond what's required of you. And so anything you do, you should be happy that you're doing it. And if you can find the time to do it more, if you like it enough to do more, great. And so once I looked at it from that perspective, that was when it made it a lot easier to be able to do this stuff, because it wasn't out of obligation that I was doing it. I was taking my free time to do this stuff because I actually like to, and framing my mind like that, to where I saw it as something positive, as opposed to, oh, I need to do this, or I have to do this, or I'm not doing this enough. That's when there was a flip and I started to enjoy doing it a lot more.
I like it. I like his simile when he said that analogy. Like, everything else you're doing is extra credit, and he's so right about that, though, because you think about it. We don't really have to do this. I mean, we're only required to go to work and pay the bills. Anything else you're doing in life is up to you. Like, there's lots of people out here in the world that just go to work, go home, pay the bills, watch ESPN, watch TV, and they do that for the next 40, 50 years of their life, and that's it. And you know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I like that one. Everything else you're doing is extra credit. So why not be the best at it, or not even, beat yourself up about it, because you're doing more than normal people would even do in life. So I like that. I like that. That's a good one. Tell your friend that's a good one.
Yeah, I'll make sure to do that.
That's a good one.
And so I feel like we kind of touched on this next question. And so I'll skip that. And so something else that's an important factor in success is the mental side of it. And so, in my
Mm,
opinion, most people are not necessarily limited by a lack of opportunity, but mainly by mental barriers that stem from their mindset. And we kind of touched on this before, but I feel like we could elaborate on this a little bit more. And so, what would you say is your take on that?
I think my take on having a strong mindset, or I think my take on having a strong mindset in the sense of just developing a strong mindset, I'm going to give both, because I feel like it would be needed. I'm going to give you, just your listeners even more of a gem, because I'm the type of person, I want to give out as much as I can, because if you never heard from me before, you're listening, I want you to be able to be like, yo, he gave me some tips that are actionable today. Like, he's definitely living up to his word. And I think to develop a strong mindset, it goes with being able to experience different things in life that has happened to you. Mindset comes from the occurrence of things you've seen, things you've experienced, and things that you understand that you want. So if you don't want more in life, how can you have a stronger mindset? Because normally a lot of people that don't have a strong mindset are okay with just being mediocre. So if you think about it, okay, think about any Hall of Fame player or athlete. You got to have a strong mindset to be like every night to go out there and give your hardest to want to be the best. If you're like, Eric, I'm not an athlete, cool. We ain't got to use the athlete. Let's do everyday life. What's the difference between the person that's living in the big home and the person that has no home? A mindset. They had to have the mindset that I want more than just going through the motions of my life. I want more than I ever had before. And if I believe I can have it, I can have it. But to develop that mindset, you had to let yourself know that I can have more. And if you're a young high school senior, young junior, young sophomore, and you're telling yourself, hey, I want to go to the best college, I want to go on a full ride. Okay, it's one thing to talk about it, you want to manifest it, but what are you going to do to make it happen? You got to have the mindset that nothing can stop you, no matter where you're from. I don't care if you're coming from a single parent household. I don't care if you're a first generational student. I don't care about any of that. What I care about is, what are you going to do to make sure you have what you want? And having what you want is having the mindset like nothing's going to stop me. I'm going to get out there, I'm going to study, I'm going to prepare, I'm going to take the ACT, I'm going to take the SATs, I'm going to take prep classes, I'm going to make sure my GPA is right, I'm going to go to these after school programs, I'm going to talk to these counselors. Having the mindset of being a winner and wanting more out of your life, because everybody can talk about wanting to go to the best schools, everybody can talk about wanting to go on a free ride, but how many people are going to have the mindset to go out there and do more than what's required out of you? And a lot of people are not. That's the reason why a lot of kids get scholarships and a lot of kids don't get scholarships. Sometimes it could be, how good you are. Sometimes it could be the coaches. I understand that, but there's also the chances of there's kids that get scholarships that haven't had a good coach, or they didn't go to a good school, but they took the time out on their own and still sent off their, their academic forms and everything, their grades to different schools, and apply for different scholarships on their own, or send out their film to different coaches on their own without their coach knowing or doing it, and they did it themselves. It's all about having the mindset to be like, I want more. And as a young man, as an adult, if you want more out of life and you want life to be what you want it to be, you got to be willing to give more and do more. You just can't go through the motions. And you made a prime example earlier when your friend said extra credit. That's why I laughed about it, because a lot of people not doing extra credit in life. They'll tell you all day, like, man, I wish I had a life I never can escape from. Well, why can't you? Ah, man, because you're not willing to do more. You're not willing to sacrifice the weekends. You're not willing to sacrifice afternoons. You're not willing to sacrifice kicking it, hanging it out, doing whatever to have more. And the same thing if you're a young man coming through school, whatever. And if you go to college and you want to go to the next level, I mean, in the sense where I say next level, in the sense where have your grades be better, be a better person, have a better job. If you want more in life, you got to be willing to give more. And when you're willing to give more, then you'll have more in life. Everybody that I've known that's been successful, the millionaires I've ran into, they all say the same thing. I was willing to do more and have the life that I always wanted, and more than the life that I never wanted to miss. So if you're willing to do more today than you was yesterday, then you'll have more. But if you're not willing to do more today than you were yesterday, then you won't have what you want. And that all deals with your mindset. So to break it all back down, if everybody's listening, how can I have a better mindset? How can I have a strong mindset? Be willing to do more, go farther, push the distance, and make sure that your life experiences show through that. Because what happens is when you do all these things, your life experiences will learn from it, so that when you have another situation in your life, like uh you're sick or something bad happens to you, you could understand, like, I've done something before in my life that's allowed me to be successful. I can do it again, and I can do it again for the third time. It won't beat you down, because life will happen. Ups and downs will happen. You'll lose your job. You'll be laid off. People will talk about you. But if you've gone through other experiences in life where it made you stronger, you were able to do more and get through them, then they will roll over to these experiences to show you that you can do it as well too. So I hope that kind of explains the tough mindset, I like to say.
Right. Okay. And so I think what I gathered from it is two things, two main barriers that hurt a lot of people when it comes to their success mentally. And so first one that you mentioned was, I would say, developing that extra credit mindset, the get into the habit of going above and beyond, which is something that's hard for a lot of people to pick up on. But another thing, and this might be more like a nuanced one, I don't know if this is how you intended to word it or not, but the thing I gathered was exposure. And so something that I thought, or at least I gathered from it, was that as you get more exposure, as you see more opportunities, that's something else that can lead to you having more success. And one of the barriers for a lot of people is just not having that exposure to what it is they might want, to where they can't even think of it to set their mind to that type of goal. Is that kind of what you're getting at too?
Yeah, definitely getting it. I get that in the sense where, going out there and doing the extra mile and doing more than the next person. Because when you're doing more than the next person, that's, like you said before, exposure, in the sense where if you're going to school every day and coming home and that's it. But if I'm going to school, coming home, going to a club, meeting more people, getting around different people that don't look like me, I'm exposing myself to a different atmosphere, different people, and I'm doing more to make myself better. But at the same time of doing more to make myself more qualified for college and, applications do more, I'm exposing myself to people that don't know me, so that the people that I run into in these different clubs or different groups, I might tell them, hey, I want to go to XYZ college. They might be like, oh, I know the admissions director there. But I would have never known that if I would just continue to go to school, come home, go to school, come home. But if I don't join no clubs, how would I know that the debate teacher goes to the college and his best friend is the admission director? I wouldn't know that, because I don't go to debate. I don't go to debate club. I just go to school and come home. But doing the extra credit in the sense of wanting more out of my life, wanting more into my mindset, and just wanting to be better, being the best I can be, allowed me to be exposed to other people or meeting other people, in the sense where it's allowing me to put myself in that space. So I'm always been a big believer in, if you want more and you want things to happen, put yourself in the space. And I think it goes well with the mindset of, just having a strong mindset, exposure, putting yourself in the space and doing more. So if you break it down for everybody, exposure, doing more, and, and having a strong mindset of just, putting yourself out there and not worrying what others think. Because a lot of times putting yourself out there could be very nerve wracking and very nervous,
Right.
because you don't know what others could think of you when you go to places that, that are different from what you used to do. Like, oh man, I've never really went to a SAT prep. I don't know how it's going to be, or I never went to a debate club, but I wanted to try debate, or I never went to this mixer or whatever. But you just got to put yourself in the space, and you got to be willing to do more, because everybody that I've met that's been willing to do more has had success.
Right. Right. I definitely agree. And something that I've done to, I guess, make it to where I was doing more of the extra credit type of stuff, going above and beyond to help towards what my goals were,
Mm,
is I would brainstorm about different things that I could do that could potentially add to what my mission is. And so
mm.
one of the things that I did was hire a success coach. And that's
That's
something
good.
that I never would have thought that I would do. But, I pay him monthly and we have calls and we go over some of this strategic type of stuff, and just being able to have like a second voice, somebody to bounce ideas off of, has made a world of difference. And
Mm,
so one of the things that we have done is brainstorming these type of, I guess you could say, extra credit things to see what fits into the mission and what I can add to my plate to be able to get those end goals faster. And so I know
yes.
one of the things that I wanted to do moving to a new city and being here for less than a year is network and interact with people that are moving in the same trajectory that I am. Some of the things we brainstormed about, finding ways to make some of my hobbies that I have social, make them public, I guess you could say, instead of me just doing the podcast and stuff on my own. Of course, getting guests, of course, joining podcasting groups on Meetup and going to different events with them. That's been one thing that's helpful. Going on apps like Meetup to try and find people that are in groups that are similar to me. And so just doing that type of stuff that you would normally not have in your typical routine or like in your, I guess, your habits for the week.
Yep.
Sitting down and brainstorming about that type of stuff has made a world of difference in my progress, not just in the podcast, but in my personal development, social life, all of that.
Yeah, I definitely feel like everything that you guys are discussing is very helpful, because I feel like the success coach is just pretty much showing you all the things that you've already thought about and you want to do, but showing you where to hone it into and where to go to make it successful. And you got to think about it, like you said before, just the simple fact that you want to do more. That's a mindset. That's a mindset to want to have more out of your life, because some people have a mindset that you'll run into, they're okay with it, or they can't fathom themselves being more than what they're doing. Like, or prime example, I remember Les Brown had said at one time in he's like, his coach Mike Williams was like, yeah, you should charge like $1,000 an hour to speak. He was like, what? I mean, I make 20, that's more than I make in 3 weeks at my job. I mean, $21 is good. I don't know about, he never had the mindset of thinking that he can get paid that much money. And that all deals with a mindset. Some people don't have the mindset of thinking they can start a podcast or go out and meet people or get paid this amount of money or have those type of things. And when you have that mindset, it limits you. It stops you from ever starting a race or feeling like any of those things belong to you. So it's good that you have a coach, because I feel like having a coach is great, especially when that can help you. Like I said before, I've dealt with different coaches before that have shown me different things about when it comes to my podcast, how to be about, doubling down, niching down, understanding your mission, understanding what you want to speak about. And I say to anybody, if you're able to get a coach or get a book, pay for it. I know some people be like $29.99 or $250 a month. That's a lot. It'll save you a lot of headaches. You'll end up paying yourself $5,000. You end up spending $5,000-$10,000 doing something you shouldn't even be did. If you would just paid a little bit of money, get a coach or a book or audio book, and it'll save you the time. But that's another thing I realized. Some people aren't willing to do self development, but they'll spend money to go to a concert, but they won't do self development. So I think we have to realize what's important to help us and also help us grow. And I just want, a lot of us to realize that, because helping us grow helps us change our mindset. And I think that some people don't do self-development like they do other things like concerts and stuff like that, not because they don't want to, but because it wasn't the norm to them, or it's not something that a lot of people around them do.
Right.
But when they figure out that other people are doing it or they hear it, then they realize they get their mind jogged. So
right.
It's a crazy situation, man. It's a crazy situation about how you come in and where you're from.
Hey, and here we are helping with that, right? Spreading that awareness of the power of personal development and what it can do for you in your life, getting the results that you want, just from telling my personal story in past episodes and people seeing where I've gotten today, especially people that have known me for the past few years. And so you probably have a similar story too, where personal development and doing self-improvement change probably multiple aspects of your life. And so, that's a big part of the mission here, just making sure that guys see the importance of this and they implement this stuff that we're talking about, as well as other things, and even do their own research, other books, other podcasts, and just get into that habit of making this a lifelong journey for them, along with whatever else they're doing, to be able to make sure they develop themselves all around, become that complete package, I guess you could say.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. Be the complete package, because every day is a journey to get better and better. And a lot of times when people see you speak, they're thinking like, oh, you just knew what it was. Like, nah, this was a journey to figure this out. Took a lot of time, read a lot of books, and figuring out what's for me, what I want to do, and what I like, because we're just like everybody else. I know I was up and down, thought I like this, thought I like that, did this, did that. And it wasn't me. It was too many people in my ear telling me what I should do, what I think I should do. And then when I started figuring out what was right for me, everything just kind of came together. But it came together because I started listening to people who started explaining, like, self-development, the Les Brown, the Eric Thomas, the Jim Rohns, things like that you can listen to on Spotify. I started listening. A lot of times after I record my podcast, I turn it back and listen to my own self and be like, yep, you're right, Eric. You're right. I need to be doing that. Like,
that's how you know your
I
stuff
just
is
surely
good
did not
when
do
you
that.
just said the stuff and then you
Right.
come
I
back and
surely
listen
did
to it.
not
Right.
do that. I did not do that. I'm like, yeah, I need to be doing that. Need to be doing that.
You're
Especially
like,
the
man,
first season
this
when I
guy's
first
making
started
some points,
recording.
dropping some gems, huh?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? When the
Yeah.
first season I was recording myself, I was like, yeah. Then I think about something during the week. I'm like, man, I don't know. Like, hold on, play me. I'll be like, yep, I need to be doing that. I need to be doing that first season. But I think, like I said before, like when you first started out doing this, you'll be surprised at the things that come across your mind when you're recording, when you're talking. And then later on, it's easy to be like, you think about it and then be like, I thought, who said this? And be like, I said this. Man, like it's crazy how everything coming together. But once you start doing it consistently, you start realizing like, boom, boom, boom. This is how my mind has changed from just being doing all over the place to now it's boom, 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 boom. I'm walking with direction. I'm thinking with direction. I'm having a mindset that's getting me better and better every day.
Yeah. And I definitely agree with you. And so I guess just to change gears to hop to
Mhm.
the next topic, another thing I wanted to ask you, and we touched on this just a little bit before when we were
Mhm.
talking about other people, but I wanted to ask you a personal question about
Yeah.
yourself. And so what was the process like for you when you were working to overcome the fears that were standing in your way of success, whether that was fears to even get started in the first place or along the way where you might have had some uncertainties about what was going on, what you wanted to do with your career path
Right.
to get to where you got today?
I think a lot of fears were, what will other think? What will other people think? Like,
Mm,
man, I had
probably
to
the
take a
biggest
deep
one.
breath. I take a deep breath on this one because it's so crazy how I think back on it, and then now I'm like, why was I even be acting like that? But
Yeah.
you'll think it's so crazy how so many times people around you can play a big factor on how you think about things, and a lot of people around me had me feeling like, well, you want to go do what? You want to go work at a startup? They up and down, they're flimsy. They let people off, they might not have benefits. That's really thinking outside the box. Or you want to start a podcast? Who are you supposed to be, Larry King? I was like, what? Like, what? Who are you supposed to be, the Breakfast Club? I'll be like, come on, man, stop that. But a lot of people will get into your mind and make you feel like you can't do that and you need to stick to what you're doing. And like a study at MIT that I read said that if 17 people tell you no, that you can't do something, you need 18 people to come along and tell you yes, you can before you believe it. So think about how many people tell you no on a regular basis, or they tell you passive aggressive no, like, you think that's for you? I mean, most people, that do that, they kind of, fit a little image. They don't really have a beard. They don't just randomly talk off script, you know. And these were all like issues I dealt with before because you want the people around you to be supportive, but then I had to realize that sometimes the people close to you ain't gonna be supportive. They're not gonna listen to your episodes. They're not. They're gonna be like, "Oh, you got a podcast?" They're not gonna care. And these are like, I would say, fears before that used to mess with my mind because it would be like, what will people think? Am I doing the right thing? These are supposed to be people that I feel like were giving me good information in my life. And, why would they be giving me something different? Why are they doing this? And then I had to realize, and I want everybody to listen. If you're watching, listen. Everybody's not going to have the dream that you have. And because they don't have the dream that you have, they can't believe someone else is doing the dream that they know. And sometimes you doing your dream is so far-fetched and so out of this world to them that because you're thinking bigger, they want you to stop thinking big and they want you to come back to their level.
So
And I had to realize that
they're projecting, I guess, their failures or their lack
onto
of
you.
expectations on you. You're kind of
Yep.
becoming like the able to their cane, I
Yep.
guess you could say.
Yes, indeed. And I had some friends like back in Atlanta that were doing that. They were projecting a lot of their failures onto me, which I didn't even know at the time until I started digging deep and talking to them. And they start, yeah, you know, I tried to start an ice cream business. It failed. And every day my wife tells me that I'm a failure and how I blew the investment, how I blew the life savings of our family fund. And then so because of that, you're telling me about going after my dreams, I'll be a failure and how I need to play it safe because you playing it safe and your wife makes you feel like that every day. So you thinking you're saving me when all actuality you're actually hurting me because I'm not playing with the family's life savings and starting the ice cream business. You did that. I'm just starting a podcast and I'm not putting 100,000 up on something that I don't feel comfortable with. You did that even after your wife told you not to start that big. That's why I said before about starting small instead of trying to jump out there and get a storefront. He jumped out there and got a storefront, lost all the money in 6 months. So these are like life experiences and stuff like that that I've seen from people in business. And he started projecting that onto me when it came to doing my podcast and always playing it safe and not having people be mad at you or feeling like you're not there for people. And he was just one of others. I had coworkers that would be like, I don't know about leaving this job. It's good to me. This is what I know. It's a check. Why would I go to a startup? Even though they might pay me more, how do I know? I've been here for 5 years. I get a raise every year, $1 though, bro, or $1 more, or you get 5,000 more, whatever it means. You like, bro, you're not getting a lot, like, but it's a check though, and this is a good business. What you're going to is uncertainty. Like, I don't really know about computers and that technology stuff. But a real friend's gonna be like, hey, is that what you want to do? Yeah, man, I don't know that much about it, but you do you, bro. And I'm going to support you in whatever you need to do. And whatever you need me to help you with, I got you. That's what a real friend does. But a friend that doesn't understand, they'll put you down. And I want to make it clear. There's some friends that may be putting you down, not because they don't want to put you down. Their mindset's not that big. So because they've never seen that, they don't know how to give you positive words. So that's two things you got to be on lookout. There's ones that are just gonna give you negativity from the jump. You don't need to do it. And there's two, they're giving you negativity, but they're not trying to because they just never seen it done. What do you mean? Yeah, man, I want to build tables. I don't know about that, man. I mean, they never seen people build tables or build stuff, so they don't know nothing about it. They don't know how to give you positivity. You know what I'm saying? But it's not because they don't want to, they just never seen it. And once they see it done, depending on where you grow up in your neighborhood, if they can see it done, then they will believe. If you would be like, man, I want to go to the league, they could be like, yeah, everybody, man, a lot of people around here go to the league. All you gotta keep doing, practicing it, they may see certain things, or you want to get a job at so-and-so, whatever it may be. But I say all that to bring it back because I try not to go too far off. I give too many stories. Overcoming the fears was just a whole blocking out the mindset of others and realizing that I can't let them project what they didn't have in their life or what they wanted or what didn't happen to them happen for me. And because of that, it allowed me to start honing in and being like, something, this journey ain't for everybody. This is what I want to do. I prayed about it. This is what my calling is. I'm good at it. And I just got to keep going. And I guarantee you, I promise everybody, once I started moving towards the calling of what God has for me, God started making people that do what I do come my way, meeting other podcasters, meeting other mentors, meeting other groups. And then all of a sudden I got welcomed to those new friends where the other people who were always negative, I didn't have to worry about hanging with them. I could talk to the new people that I met and they uplifted me and put me in a position where I needed to be.
So that team that you had around you after the fact was constructive to what your mission was.
Yeah, it was very constructive.
Being around them, you're getting positivity from them, that they were moving in the same direction on this same wavelength to where, you wouldn't be getting discouragement or anything that could be detrimental to what you're trying to do whenever you spend time with them, right?
Yep, right. And that all comes with being able to march forward because, I say all that. I say that big story because I feel like whenever I talk, it's always so many emotions for everything that's happened to me that I just want to convey them to everybody because a lot of times I realized, and I say this because I hear on people podcasts and they be like, tell me about your fears. Oh, I went through XYZ and I bounced back and now I'm ready to make this. what the freak was that? That didn't make any sense. What you just gave me, like,
They pretty much just gave you like a story of triumph
you know
instead
what I'm
of
saying? The story of
telling you like
triumph.
what the fears were. Yeah.
Right. At first, I was down, and then it was so hard, and I couldn't go through. But then I got the words from my mentor, and I took that, and then from there, I was able to rise up and be successful. Bro, what is that? That didn't explain everything.
Yeah.
I try
Yeah.
to give everybody a full synopsis of how I feel at the time and what my mindset was going through, because you're gonna feel the same way too. You're gonna, whether it's the fear, whether it's having a strong mindset or whatever,
Right.
it's like you're gonna have so many emotions going on through your head every day that you just feel like, what is going on with me? Why am I being different from the norm? And you just have to realize, like, these are normal thoughts and normal things that are going to happen or get thrown at you from the devil and all kind of negativity. But you just have to keep your mindset focused, keep on going, and know that if you just keep moving and you keep going, keep your momentum, God's going to open up doors and have people come your way that's going to help you. But you just got to believe. If you don't do anything, have faith and got to believe. I promise you it'll work out.
And I'm glad that you're open about your experience and you describe those different emotions that you had throughout the process, because one thing about it that sets it apart from somebody's typical story of, oh, I had this challenge, but
Mhm.
blank happened, or I got this advice, or I took this action and then I got this end result. It's not a job interview. You know, you're not doing the star method and all that. Whenever you give that personal side of it too, it helps to where these people that are sitting here listening to the episode can connect their own personal experiences to things that you've gone through, and they can put themselves in your shoes. They can see themselves having a similar situation and I guess having triumph from there, instead of just hearing some cut and dry story like something you'd read on LinkedIn or
Yeah.
whatever that they can have no type of personal attachment to. And so I appreciate that you add that personal element to it, because you know those guys that are sitting on the couch, or you know driving in the car
Mhm.
or folding laundry and listening to these episodes, they can listen to this stuff, and that makes us go from being these people that they might see above them or that are doing so much more than them
Yeah.
to somebody that's just like them, you know, no better than them, you
Right.
know, has same fears, same type of insecurities and that sort of thing, but was just able to find the strength or the courage to be able to push through it and go, and now motivate those guys to do the same. And so that's why I appreciate you doing that.
No doubt, man. Definitely, man. Like we had talked before offline. I just want to give people the utmost experience of knowing that if I could do it, you could do it. And I say that in the sense where we're no different. The only difference is I just want more from my life. And if you want more from your life, then you'll be able to have what you want. You just got to be willing to sustain all the craziness. And I say craziness because I don't know your situation, but you're going to have craziness in your life, whether it be job, family, girlfriend. If you're young and you're a young adult with a kid, baby mama, whatever it may be, you might just, whatever could be hitting you life wise, you just got to block out all the craziness and just know that if I want better in my life for me, my family, whoever, you just got to keep going and it's going to come to you. There's always been peaks and valleys. Sometimes you ride the peak and it's great. But then when you hit the valley, sometimes you could be in the valley for a whole year. I remember when I started recording my podcast, I was in the valley for a whole year, just trying to figure out what I was going to do. But then when I had been listening to my old podcast and I was getting my mind back around, I was like, you know something? I said all the time, never stop, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. And that's what I did. I kept moving even in chaos. And it allowed me to, elevate it. And from there, I would just hit 100 miles and running. But that whole year, it felt like it was never going to end. And some of y'all are young men, you're listening, you're thinking like, man, this is never going to end. I'm in a bad situation at home. I'm in a bad situation with this, this young lady or this boyfriend. Just remember, like, it will get better, but you got to make it get better. You got to be willing to take the steps to leave. You got to be willing to take the steps to, improve your situation. Only you can. And that's how it was when I was in that whole valley. I took the steps to change my situation by being like, something, I don't like what I'm doing. So every day I'm gonna work towards getting out of this position, getting out of this job, getting out of where I'm living with these crazy people, these crazy roommates I was dealing with. Every day was getting better and getting in a different situation. And it didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen in the first month, didn't happen the second month, didn't happen the third month, didn't happen the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh. But that eighth month after 7, 8 months of preparing and I found the right job, found the right gig, and boom, I was off and running. And I said all that to y'all, but like, you may be going through whatever you're going through at home, at work, at college, at school. Just endure it and just keep your sights set on the long-term goal of where you want to be. And it will come, but you just got to keep moving, because when that day comes, you're already ready. You know, the saying goes, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. So stay ready every day.
Great. And I think that's a great one to end it on, man. And so, I really appreciate you coming on the show, Eric, dropping these gems for the guys, and being you, and
Yeah.
being authentic, and providing this knowledge to them, so that way they can see the authenticity of it, and they know that it's something they can have confidence in when they try and apply it to their lives. And so thanks again. And
Man, no
so,
problem.
is there anything else that you like to add before we go ahead and cut it off?
Yeah, I definitely want to add, at the end of my podcast, I tell everybody to keep living your life, because if you don't, your life is not going to live you. And I say that in the sense where whatever you want in life, you can have it, but life is only going to give you what you want. So if you want more in life, you'll have it. If you want to be mediocre, life will give you that. And I also tell people to keep staying the 3 B's. Continue to keep staying bigger, better, and badder. Bigger meaning everything you do it the best and the biggest way you can. You want to be a speaker, be the biggest speaker you can. Do better every day, be a better person than you were before, because you being better every day allows you to help your community, help those around you. And be better, be known as a person that no matter what it is, you're going to give 150 or 200%, because your reputation allows people to be like, man, I know when I have him come speak, I know when I have him come work, I know when I have him come over and help me out or give me advice, he's going to give me the baddest advice ever. He's always going to give me the best I can be. So always remember to stay bigger, better, and badder. You'll be surprised. Your character and your reputation speaks more about you than you ever could when you're not in the room.
All right, thank you for that. And guys, I'll make sure to put the link to his podcast in the description, and all other information. And so make sure to check that out. And this will also be uploaded on the YouTube channel. Just go on YouTube and type in Himprovement, and you'll see the video interview of this. All right. So thanks again, Eric. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, man.
You too. Thanks, man.